and start taking public comment on the state of Jefferson. Items B1 and B2, we're going to take it all in a big clump because it's all regarding the same issues. So we have here 21 cards, and I guess we'll just go ahead and start taking public comment. It'll be 3 minutes. I will have this little handy dandy timer right here that Apple has provided me with, and we'll time you, and then I'll kind of just say, please wrap up your last sentence, and we'll move on. The person that is on the top of my stack is Faye Almond. Come on up.
I'm Faye Almond from Chester. I live in California, as we all do. We have absolutely no representation here, and that is why we're fighting for the state of Jefferson. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I ask that they state they're from Plumas County? Or what county?
Chester's in Plumas County.
No, I know, in the past, there's been a lot of people from out of county. So I'd like to hear if you were from Plumas County or Tehama County, Reno, Nevada, Arizona.
Who cares?
All right, second up,
Good shot.
Barbara Keeling. Barbara Keeling, there you are.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
how you doing? I'm Barbara Keeling from Lawson County. Do all of you have a copy of the Lawson County Declaration?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right, first I want to talk about why I'm very serious about the state of Jefferson. Common Core has been implemented in our schools. I have 2 daughters, one that went to San Diego State, one that went to UC Santa Cruz. Right now, with Common Core standards, my child will not be able to get a job, much less go to college. 2 plus 2 is 4. But if you don't come up with that answer, you just need to explain why you did it. This is serious, people. This is very serious. They're also teaching a lot of Islam. My son went to Janesville Elementary School, or junior high. And knowing about Muhammad is a requirement to pass the 7th grade in the state of California. Okay, I wouldn't have a problem with that, but I also want him to learn about Buddhism then. I want him to learn about all the other religions if they're going to teach one. There's supposed to be a separation of church and state. Now, I worked for Tehama County Social Services, which is the welfare office. Now, this is very important for all of you to understand as taxpayers. If something happens and you go in and put in for assistance, you've got a big surprise coming. We had a Vietnam veteran come in, has worked his entire life since he got back from Vietnam, has paid taxes. He was entitled to $16 a month in food stamps. $16 a month. All right? Now, I am a certified California translator. Yo hablo español muy bien. I was born in Havana, Cuba. So this is not a racist thing that I'm saying here. An illegal immigrant, no matter where they are from, is entitled to a lot more. The lady that came up after him got almost $4,000 in services. And our veteran could only get $16 a month. Okay, again, this is not racist. It doesn't matter where the immigrant is from. It is a fact. In 2013, the state of California had to put state employees under furlough. The correctional officers in our county of Lawson County, a lot of them had to take a $1,000 pay cut while the furlough was going on. All right, that's somebody's mortgage payment.
If you could wrap up your last sentence.
Okay. And the welfare recipients didn't have to take a pay cut. They got just as much as they were getting before.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So we need to do something in order to state California or state, okay?
Okay, next up, Don Conan, please. Don Conan. Yes. Hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly.
Yes. It's the first time it's been pronounced right. You might agree with me. My name is Don Conan. I'm from Nevada County. And I won't bore you with how I feel about Jefferson. I want to thank you for allowing us this time to speak before the board. What I'd like to do is give you a couple of facts. And one of them is Jerry Brown has, he proposed a fuel tax on our people here in the rural counties, on everybody in California. The problem is the tax is already being collected for roads, and that's going into the general fund. We have the fire tax that takes money out of your economy and puts it into the state. And that tax is for prevention and education. None of that tax goes for any manpower or equipment whatsoever. So we've been collecting that tax over 5 years. The state has gotten somewhere in the neighborhood of $300 million. They have $43 million sitting in an account unspent, and we probably have the worst fire season California's ever had. We also have the state of California taking our dredge miners and telling them they cannot work their federal claims, and Fish and Game is arresting them and confiscating their equipment. Of course, the Environmental Protection Agency has been enacting ex post facto regulations on truckers and farmers that one day you have equipment that meets the air quality standards in California, they adopt a new regulation, and your equipment doesn't. The next day doesn't meet the standards unless you spend large amounts of money on retrofitting your equipment. I think that's wrong for the state to have these ex post facto regulations being. We also have the California Water Resources Board that now they claim full power over all the water in the state. We've seen them take irrigation districts to task and tell them they can no longer pump water from their sources, and they don't bother with due process, and they've told their own lawyers tried to back away from it. Okay, so they're doing this without due process or any compensation, even your personal wells. So thank you for your time.
Next up is Susie Pierce. And these are in no particular order, I just kind of threw them down in front
Hi,
of you.
everybody. I think it would be amazing if we could take these two groups and support Northern California, protect our interests, our revenues, our livelihoods. We all have things in common. We love where we live. We need to make a living. We need to have our rights protected, our water protected. If the two groups could focus together, not worry about the financial and just letting them know we need representation.
Amen.
And that's what this is about. Showing them we're going to stand together as the North State and say we want a choice. And that's what we got to do. We're all in the same boat. We live here. We love this country. We love Northern California. Do you want to live in Southern California? I don't. And they want us to move and get out of here, and I want to stay. And I want my kids and my grandkids to stay. And if we could focus together, it'd be so much better than two groups. We're all for California. All of us.
That's right.
We just need to work together.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I have Karen Thomas.
Yes, my husband and I have lived in Plumas County for 45 years now. I'm a native Californian, born in Sacramento, grew up in Sacramento. My husband also grew up in Sacramento. We went to Sacramento schools. We went to Sacramento colleges and graduated, and my husband got a teaching job in Portola, and so we moved up here. We both grew up down in the valley area, and we have 4 great kids that 2 of them live in Nevada, 2 of them live in California. And I've got a lot of good memories, a lot of support and thoughts about our state. I don't feel like I'm a traitor when it's time to say it's time that we became our own state, because we have our unique interests and needs here that LA and Sacramento and the Bay Area don't care about or won't do anything about. And I think, change can be good or it can be bad. And I really believe if we take all the good things that we have now, all the good services and things that we're doing, keep those and make changes to some of the regulations that aren't needed anymore, aren't needed up here. They might be needed down in LA, but we don't live down in LA.
That's right.
And so, we've gone and tried to go through our legislature. We have no voice. We only have, how many representatives? 6. For how many counties? 20. And LA has 35, and we have just a few. We can't make a difference at all, no matter how hard we try. I say the only way that we can really make this county and the rest of the counties in the North State viable and sustainable like they used to be is if we form our own state. Thank you.
Just a reminder for those of you that don't know, I have these little cards, and if you'd like to speak right outside the door, there's a little table out there with these cards on them, and you can fill it out and bring it on in, and I will, when I get to the end of these, then we'll be the end of the comment period. So, anyhow, Rhonda Perkins, you're up next.
I'm Rhonda Perkins. I live in Plumas County, and we need the state of Jefferson. We have no representation. That's my comment.
Gordon Keller.
Good morning. I'm here because I feel like this Plumas County should stay in the state of California. I can appreciate a lot of the concerns. There's a lot of problems with the state. There's certainly lack of representation. I hope the board will work on that. But I think it would be a financial disaster to move out of the state of California. I think one area that people are probably not aware of, like, is the Forest Highway Program. This county has received probably $50 million in funding for the Quincy-LaPorte Road, the Quincy-Oro Highway, the Mapes Canyon project that's going on right now, the Caribou Road, the Gold Lake Road. These are all projects that are federal highway money, but it comes to Plumas County, but it comes because they're sponsored by both the state of California, Caltrans, and the county. And I doubt that that's going to happen quickly for the state. And so, like I said, I think it would be a financial disaster, and so I just would encourage the board to keep it in California. Thank you.
And Gordon, you're from Plumas, right?
I'm sorry, I'm in Taylorsville area,
Okay.
resident Plumas County.
I believe it's Barbara MacArthur.
May I speak from here?
Sure, none of the microphones are working anyway.
I'll try to put on my orator's voice. I live at Lake Elsinore, California. Plumas County. And I want to say that I have watched the deterioration of our area in so many ways. And one, loss of population. The school districts are losing students. They can't even support a football team anymore. There are 43 empty storefronts on Main Street in Chester. We have been fighting the Water Resources Board with this Lake Eleanor trying to take our cold water. They've been just stringing us along. I mean, we have written them letters, we've had representation from Sherry, from you name it. I've just watched everything go downhill. And I used to, when I lived in the valley, I used to go and speak to the legislators because I lived in the Sacramento area. And they need to hear a voice, and we don't have one. And I know when they think you represent a lot of people and you have a lot of representation, they listen. But because we don't have it, we are just ignored with impunity. And it's time that we become our own self-government. There's no reason we can't. California did it before. And so it's time, and we have the ability. I know we do, and I hope that our board members will take a stand today, yes or no, and no more kicking down the road, because it's time to decide and move forward. So thank you.
Next up, John Kidwell.
Thank you. I'm John Kidwell. I live in Plumas County. I'm also on the Plumas County SOJ Board or Committee. 3 points I'd like to make. We submitted to you a declaration a few months ago. That declaration does two things. One, it asks that you agree that California is a failing state, that we are having impossibility, if not difficulty, if not impossibility, in dealing day-to-day in our business functions, dealing day-to-day in our government functions, dealing with the state of California and its regulations, all of those things. We're asking that you agree that's true, and every single one of you has said that's true. Every single one of you have said that. The other half of that is that we've asked that not only would you vote to support based on that, but that you also would agree, because you asked for it, that we move the issue also forward to a referendum in June of 2016. That's also in there. Those are the two major factors involved in that declaration. And that's all we're asking of you, okay? You've already said that you agree with both of those. So there's no reason why you shouldn't vote in support of it. The last item I want to mention is, and I've mentioned it to some of you, many of you know about it. Back in 1992, there was an advisory vote taken in the general election about separating from the state of California, about the North separating from the state of California. Plumas County voted 71.25% in favor of doing that. 71.25% in favor of separating from California. By the way, we also don't care, and Mark Baird will tell you, we don't care what it's called. It doesn't have to be Jefferson. It could be North California. It could be Northern California. That's not important. The important part is getting us separated. I need to speak quickly to the one gentleman's comment about roads. I'm sorry, but that's our money we're talking about that comes back to us.
Yes.
It also, in the case of federal monies, we would have the same as the other 50 states, the same access, the same opportunities as the other 50 states once we become a state. That's a fact, folks, and I ask you to offer me argument in opposition to that that's factual. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, Russ Bowring, is that correct?
No, I happen to
Did I pronounce that correctly?
No, it's Bowering.
Bowring, thank you.
And I live in Plumas County, and I'm a native Californian, born in California. I love California as much as anybody in this room, but I also hate not being represented. And that's what this is all about. Representation, pure and simple, that's what it's about.
Michael Jackson?
It's not.
Yeah, sorry.
The single most dangerous thing that's on this list would be, I'm from Quincy. The single most dangerous thing on this list is the idea that we would challenge the one person, one man, one vote. It's a federal law, it is clear, it's constitutional, and it would be a waste of time and money. There is no chance that that would happen, even if there were a state of Jefferson. It would still be exactly the same way. The second thing is, all of the water rights in this area are claimed by Californians. They built the Oroville facility. They have a groundwater protection California Act in Sierra Valley. They have a California Court Indian Valley Declaration. The minute that you're not Californians, you have none of that protection. There are people who have a lot of experience at interstate waters, waters that flow from one state to another state. California, they're based on something that the Supreme Court calls equitable apportionment. In other words, the greatest good for the greatest number. You will lose your water if you do this thing. And then when I hear about we're going to have lower taxes, and I look into it and find out that Plumas County got about $68 million last year from the state of California, and the people here paid about $18 million in taxes. As I calculate that, we're going to pay 3 times as much in taxes to keep the services that these people are promising you can keep. It's not going to happen. I think basically what we have here is California is changing, and perhaps there's people here who don't like those changes. But it is unrealistic, economically suicidal, and the idea of changing one person, one vote, when you're aspiring to be the 51st state is just ridiculous. So please don't do it.
I got a Plymouth Libertarian card here. Gary Bryant, the chairman of that board.
Thank you. I was watching a show with Paul Giamatti about the American Revolution. Just imagine it, and no disrespect to the gentleman, but just imagine if they took his advice with everything against the British. If we don't learn from history, we are doomed to repeat it. I don't know who said it, but you know, it takes an irate minority to prevail. Now, as for taxes, I'm ashamed that I had to get on Medi-Cal because I don't believe, this goes everything that I believe in. And the fact is, I'm a floor layer, I'm self-employed. This has been the crappiest economy in my lifetime. I wish I had a government job where I could make money and make all the pensions, and I can afford to be liberal or whatever, big government guy. Or I wish I could be like Michael Moore and make all that big wads of money. But you know what? We have a thing called the Federal Reserve, a private banking, that still funds everything that we owe a lot of debt to. And yet, when my clients get taxed to death, when these regulations that I have witnessed, I ran for state office 5 years ago for my party. And a lot of people were so angry at the fiscal irresponsibility that we are facing. The final thing to say about the state of Jefferson, local taxes, local spending, local government is the most effective way to combat whatever the problem is in each county, because each city and each county has different issues, different needs. And that's what we need with the Jefferson, was where the county has more power, not the state, and we have this trickle-down government, and by the time the recipient gets all the funds, it's chewed up to pay for my ex-wife's outrageous pension. She was a probation officer for the county, and I refused to take any of that. And so if you want to look for dirt on me, good luck. But I admit I had to get on Medi-Cal because of this stupid Obama, which I want to tell him to read between the lines, and I'm sorry to be angry, but you know, I had no choice. But we need economic action, and I encourage Keep It California, tell the Democrats, just cut back on less on laws, regulations, and everything, and make it a free market, and you could leech off of us, you know, and pay for this stuff, you know, and have it local government, not the state government. So, sorry to be angry. Thank you.
All right. Next up, Charlie Flopper.
Yeah, I'm a very conservative person. I'm one of the 50 people that lives on the East Shore full-time over in Plumas County. And I just want to say that I agree with what's been said here. We are not getting represented in the state. And I've been trying to generate funds to do things. We voted on one of them recently that we did. This is a problem. But the problem is we can't afford not to be in the state of California. I don't believe it. Our money is not even 1/5 of what we need to run this county. And I gave you the documents before. I'm going to read a few things just to re-emphasize it. First of all, let's look at Caltrans. We have 173 miles of state highway in this county. They are spending over $19 million this year to fix them and to improve the roads. Half of 147. Our driveway has now been paid by state funds. Guess what? If they paid it off of fuel taxes, that's $3,900,000. That's what we generate. That's our money, and the rest of it comes from the rest of the state. And there is no way we're going to make it. If we're going to pay ourselves, we've got to increase fuel tax by 5 times. 4.87 if you want to know for sure what it is. If we try to pay it, our $68 million out of our state tax, Michael just laid that out, we can't afford it. It's going to be 4.5 times more taxes if we pay it out of state taxes. As one of the 7,200 people that pays income tax in this county, that means I'm going to be paying an average of $7,000 instead of $559. Okay, that's the difference. That's our money. We don't have enough money. And then finally, I want to say we could do it just to make sure everybody understands what economic peril we are in. I have friends that live in Lake County. Okay, we had to fight the CHIPS fire in 2012. The federal government says that the state, mostly state money, $53,300,000 was spent on the CHIPS fire. During that year, from federal income tax, state income tax, sales tax, and fuel tax, Plumas County taxpayers raised $64 million. That means we had $10 million left to cover the $68 million we have to run the county. So what are the taxpayers going to do? Surprise! We're going to have to charge you another $7,000 this year because we don't have any money because we spent it to keep your houses free and burned up. I live a mile away from where they stopped it. What do I think? That was a good $53 million and I would have been spent. Whether I want to spend another $7,000 to take care of this, I don't know. That's mine.
Thank you.
Okay, my concern is it's going to raise our taxes and we don't have our money. It's not our money.
Thank you.
It's not true.
Faith Straley. Faith?
I'm Faith Straley. I live in Quincy, and I'm a Plumas County resident. I've been pretty forthright with the board and the members who have attended the meetings that I am a Keep It California person. I do feel that it would be an economic disaster to try to separate from the state. We are basically being supported by the urban populations in our state. If we wanted to do away with services that we presently have, then that's possibly what people might want. I do think that I like the idea of people working together, and I am personally very upset about all of the energy that's going into the whole idea of separating, of state of Jefferson issues. I think there are some legitimate issues, and I think there's some common ground. The problem is, how do you accomplish it? And I believe that if people were to get together and put their energies together by working through the system, we might be able to approach legislators and get change. I don't think that the other possibilities are at all viable. Thank you.
Suzanne Plummer?
I'm a Plymouth County resident, and I would like to underscore what has been said about the financial dependency of this county on the state of California, that we do receive far more resources back than we pay into, and therefore I feel like if the board were to research those that data yourselves, you would find as well that it would be an absolute disaster financially for this county to try to separate from the state. I agree with others who've said that we have legitimate concerns about not being represented in the same way that some other counties are perhaps, but I think it's upon us to make more of an effort collectively and not separately to address those issues. So I implore the board, before taking any kind of action, to examine very carefully the financial implications of even voting on such an issue. Thank you.
Pierce?
Good morning. I'm also a Plymouth County resident. I'm going to try not to repeat things that I've already written to you or that other people have said. I think it's pretty obvious that financially we are heavily dependent on the rest of the state. We are subsidized by them to meet our basic needs. And as a group of people who meet regularly with the various supervisors of all the projects and everything that we do in this county, the simple question is, could you function with 1/3 of the income that you now have? Because if we lose the 2/3 that we're getting from the state of California from other Californians, those other 39 million, then where do we get our money to provide the basic needs for our people? And you can look across the board at any number of programs. You can look specifically at the veterans benefits that we just talked about this morning. How is the state of Jefferson going to meet the needs of veterans, among many, many others, with such a small tax base, so few people? As far as representation, it's a real issue in California and in virtually every state in the United States. I've been trying to come up with a state that maybe doesn't have the rural-urban issue coming up now as the population grows and grows and we become more separated as urban and rural. Maybe Rhode Island, every other state in the country has this problem of underrepresentation by rural people. And frankly, that's a choice we make. We want to live out in beautiful country like we do, and I have no desire to live in Central or Southern California, then we have to accept the fact that we are a very small number of people, and that's the way democracy works. You don't get the same say as 1 million people when you're only less than 20,000. So, I'd like to ask you a couple questions. Let's assume that we could be financially solvent. I don't believe that's true, and I don't believe that you think that's true. And that lower taxes could still provide for the needs of the citizens. Maybe this would work in the Silicon Valley state that one guy down there proposed. He wanted to break us into 6 states, and he thought Silicon Valley would make a great one. Yeah, it would. They'd have the financial base to do great. We wouldn't have any problems from anywhere else to have to help out with. But given that, what would be the compelling reasons why the rest of California would let us go? Because they have to approve it, and then the federal government has to approve it. Why is California going to say goodbye to Northern California? Well, they could save a few $100 million, yes. They wouldn't have to subsidize all of us up here. But they would lose something far more precious. The only resource we really have, but we don't have it, and that's water. They're not going to turn over their water rights because they have to have that. So that's not going to happen. Even if it does and it goes to the federal level, why is any other state going to give the existing geographical California twice as many senators as they have? And why are they going to open the floodgates so that every rural area or every special interest group in every other state can say we want to be our own state? We're going to have 100 states? Is anybody going to let that happen? It's a fool's errand here. Let's get on with working to do the best we can in California and quit wasting time with this. I'm not even sure you have jurisdiction to do this. Thank you.
Debbie Thompson.
Hello, Debbie Thompson, Great Eagle. A couple points. Mr. Jackson stated that Reynolds versus Sims, if we had our own state, it would become a moot point. It's not good legislation, and it has really, really hurt us, but we would have a representation if we were the 51st state. As far as Keep It California claiming that financially we can't make it, what was this county like in the 70s before they took over and regulated forestry and mining out of existence? If I'm not mistaken, it was a very wealthy county. We did just fine. If we were allowed to manage our own forests, not only would it bring in a lot of money, but we'd have less fire. If we were allowed to mine and manage our own minerals, it would bring in a lot of money. If we had less regulation, it would bring in or save a lot of money. What it comes down to, like so many people have said, is we don't have the representation. And as much as we would like to work together, I know a lot of people that have been fighting for years, but we're simply not going to get it with 6 representatives. I don't care how hard we worked. If we got together with Keep It California and worked for 20 years, nothing will change as long as we only have 6 representatives. So that is why, very important, that we break off and be the 51st state. California is too big. It was never meant to stay this large. And like you know, the big cities, LA, Bay Area, Sacramento, they run everything, and it's not going to change. Thank you.
Thank you. Mark Baird.
I'm just going to stay here if that's okay.
Your microphones aren't working yet either.
Yeah. I'm here from Siskiyou County. I am a combat veteran from Vietnam. I'm a retired 747-400 captain. I'm a deputy sheriff, a reserve deputy sheriff in Siskiyou County. I own a small business in Siskiyou County, and we're ranchers in Siskiyou County as well, and I'm a member of a water rights group in Siskiyou County. I understand what it is to fight the state. I understand what people's frustrations are. Willie Brown, I think, put it best, and this is a direct quote: "All political power is transferred to the cities where it belongs, and those people up there just need to learn to obey that." I'm sorry, Reynolds versus Sims is not law. Reynolds versus Sims is a Supreme Court opinion, which, by the way, was supplanted by Brown versus Thompson in Wyoming 12 years later, where the court said that Niobrara County deserves its own representation because votes cannot represent rocks and trees, but they can represent communities. And the prevailing justice in Brown versus Thompson said, "It is easier to oppress the people of this state, or any state, when a county does not have a representative than it is when each county has at least one representative." This is simply a declaration which is a political statement only in support of a conversation which is going to occur in California. We already have enough counties for that. We have 10 counties now.
Amen.
That's enough to do it. What we're asking for is your participation, the benefit of your input and your wisdom, so that as we go forward, you can help direct this conversation. We don't want any money, we don't want any lawyers, we don't want any fiscal or physical support unless you choose to contribute it. Now, will we get our own state? I don't know. We'll probably end up in court. We've already interviewed 2 lawyers who have prevailed in the Supreme Court. Both of them like this case very much. One of them is the current attorney on the Texas case in front of the Supreme Court right now to have all people changed to all eligible voters. This is simply an effort to gain more representation. Will it result in a new state? I don't know. But the worst thing that can happen is nothing, and that's what Keep It California advocates. They advocate doing absolutely nothing but keep doing it for another 50 years. This state is $2.2 trillion in debt. I don't think we can take another 50 years of good stewardship. Siskiyou County, El Dorado County, this county, we were the jewels of Northern California. our revenues from timber receipts alone paid for the entire sheriff's department, the entire road department, and the entire public instruction department. A guy got up in front of the El Dorado County Court. He owns the only timber mill left in El Dorado County. He asked them, do you know who I am? They said yes. He said, do you know what timber used to pay for here? They said yes. It paid for the sheriff's department, the public instruction department, and all of the road department. He said, what was your timber receipt last year? They laughed and said, well, you know, you own the only mill. 86,000 bucks. We are not poor. We have been impoverished by the state of California. Representation, that's all this is. Thank you.
Mike Adams?
I too am from Siskiyou County. And they say this about representation, as Mark says. We, as California citizens, have the most dilute voice of any of the state. We are represented by fewer representatives per capita than any other state, the next being Texas. Just simply having more representatives will help us, let alone if we separate from California. But the issue, as Mark states, keep it California, wishes to keep the status quo, nothing will change. We all agree that's untenable. We need our state government to listen to us. Now, if we get more representatives, will Los Angeles have more representatives? Yes, okay. And there again, with the Sims versus Reynolds decision, it is not the law. It is an opinion. And we could and should insist that this county, as in Siskiyou County, we have our own senator to represent us. Until that happens, we will be unrepresented. And the only way we're going to accomplish that is by the Jefferson Declaration. That is the only mechanism, the only lever we have to get Sacramento to listen to us. Otherwise, it's status quo, and I find that grossly unacceptable.
Where's Howard Thomas?
Thanks, sir. One thing I've heard is that this won't work. California, us breaking apart from California is not going to work. Well, I think we ought to check with Wyoming, Colorado, Vermont, and probably 17 other states that would be smaller than we are. Yes, it will work, and it has to work. And I've seen lots of signs here similar to our California flag. At the bottom of that flag it says Republic. In case you haven't noticed, we are not a republic in this country, let alone this state, any longer. And we need to be. Article 4, Section 4, Article 4 of the United States Constitution says that we are guaranteed the right to be a republic. And we're not there. We need to get a new state, form a new state, and I know monetarily, if you look at some of the things that have been published, we will be able to make it. We just heard about timber receipts. When I first came to Plumas County, and I lived in Portola since 1970, as my wife said, we had all the money that we could possibly need in our school system. And because of, and primarily because of the spotted owl, the timber receipts started to drop and on, and we ran out of money. School district's going to have $1 million less, and I understand the Board of Supervisors is going to have less money also next year to deal with. We need to form a new state. We need to look at it. That representation can happen. It has nothing to do with Reynolds versus Sims. We can form a new state and look at new representation. Like was already mentioned, we have the worst representation of any state. And I mean, it's not even close. Not even close. You look down through the states, And states have 250 representatives in much smaller states, 3 or 4 million. So we can do it, and we can do it together. There's nothing that will prevent Northern California, the northern 20 counties, from becoming its own state. And what we call it, could be up to you guys. But we have to get to a point where we do this. I don't think there's any option. We are part of a broken system, and it's time to form 51 and get it done. Thank you.
Nick Housel.
My name's Mick Housel. I'm from Portola, longtime Plumas resident. I've sat in a lot of your guys' meetings. I've heard each and every one of you talk about the lack of representation in that we can't do anything. Our hands are tied. Everybody's been frustrated by it. I've heard here some discussion about, well, we get this from California, we get that from California. A lot of that money that's being discussed comes from federal. It doesn't come from California. It comes right down through the feds. Yes, California disperses that. Another thing that I see in California that just, we can't take it anymore. There's 587 agencies in the state of California. Somebody please explain to me why we need that overabundance of agencies and oversight. It's ridiculous. You want to talk about money being spent on stupid things? How about the $187,000 that they just spent to take the fish out of Gold Lake so that they could save 9 frogs?
Yeah.
Let's talk about some of this. Let's think about this. This is all about representation. That's all it boils down to. Giving us a voice. Plumas County hasn't had a voice. Speaking to the lumber mill issue, when I was in high school, I worked in the lumber mills before I even turned 18 as a watchman and other jobs. By the time I was out of high school for 3 years, they were being shut down left and right. Our schools used to be the best in the state, if not the country. Now, we struggle to even maintain schools. They're closing down left and right. Why? Because we don't have representation. We aren't treated like other areas of California are. We're the redheaded stepchild out here. Let's just take it as that. If we don't get representation, it's only going to get worse. I ask you to do what is best for this county, and that is to go forward with this declaration, and let's move forward to getting Plumas County back to being prosperous once again, please.
Amen. Centella Tucker.
I'm Centella Tucker. I'm from Greenville, Indian Valley. My husband and I own a business over there, and one of the things that has been of great concern to us as business owners are the incredible development of the regulations from the state of California that drive our business crazy and cost us so much money. It's been mentioned about how it has affected the schools, the water resources, and everything else, but the state legislature tends to focus on the urban areas of the Bay Area and Southern California. They write laws and develop regulations that might make sense there, or that might help or some of the agencies or business or people there. They don't take into consideration the differences, the unique circumstances of any of the rural areas of California. Instead, they impose city-based regulations and laws on rural areas that have no way to support them. Those regulations can become particularly onerous for the small business owner. And I would like to see this county be not struggling to catch up with the state of Jefferson as it moves forward, but to be in the forefront of that movement and to have the opportunity to participate in the formation of the government of the state to eliminate 587 agencies that might have regulations that affect every business owner in this county, and to be part of the process moving forward instead of straggling behind and saying, oh, maybe we should have done it. Let's do it, let's participate, let's take part in this movement to investigate and see if we can indeed become a state with representation and sensible regulation.
Heather Kingdon representing Indian Valley Ag Producers.
This isn't working, right?
It is.
Oh, it is now?
I was
Well, by habit, you walk up to it. I'm Heather Kingdon. I'm a Plumas County resident. I here with concerns for my own family, but have been contacted by many of the people who work and can't come here. This is both in agriculture and ranching. Also, some were truck drivers, some are contractors that are building homes. All of them have great concerns about the regulatory overreach that's happening, whether it's on the Air Resources Board, cap and trade, greenhouse gas, the Clean Water Act, the overreach of the State Water Resources Control Board. We are being hit, as everyone has said, and I don't want to reiterate this over and over, but we've been hit by regulations that are really making it difficult to even foresee a future for our children and grandchildren. Yesterday I watched something on the news about wearing blue to fight bullying, and I believe that that's what's happened in this country from the top down, as we've been being bullied, and it happens in this county too. And I think that people that are out that have the calluses on their hands have a right to stop the bullying, and that's where we have to start now.
Amen.
Thank you.
Probably butchered this. Dawn
Kennetetter?
Kennetetter.
Yeah, you did good. Thank you.
Right.
So yeah, I'm Dawn Kennetetter, and I do live in Plumas County. I'm gonna just give you a little bit of a different picture from my perspective about the real problem with lack of representation, because I have spent an ungodly amount of time in Sacramento, and I've also spent a lot of time fighting for parental rights and medical freedom at the state level in other states. And I have to tell you, nothing will show you how something has changed for the worse, like going away for 10 years. Back in 2000, and please, I can talk about going to Sacramento forever, so do shut me off at 3 minutes. 15 years ago, fighting bills in Sacramento, fighting for our freedom, it kind of worked okay. I mean, just a very few of us were able to affect change. We were able to walk into senators and assembly members' offices and actually meet with them, not just staff. 10 years later, I come back here. I feel silly now almost for trying so hard to move back to a place that I love, that I wanted to come back to so badly, only to be shown these last 4 years at the state level that these people are not listening to anyone. They're bought. If only our 6 representatives for Northern California were to vote on the issues that I go and fight for, all would be well. They voted the right way. But the problem is the rest of our state doesn't do that. And what's changed? What has changed during that time from when things kind of seemed like they were working to now? It's money. It's lobbyists. They run the show down there, period. This isn't going to get any better. It's a naive idea to think that you can fix Sacramento. It can't be done. I would stake my life on that. It just can't be done. If we're going to have real representation and do what's best for Plumas County, which I find myself hard-pressed to see a future here for me or my son or my family. It's very disappointing after all we gave up to come here. Anyway, again, I just want to give you a little bit of my perspective from fighting at the state level in Sacramento and let you know from the bottom of my heart, I don't think this is fixable. In other states, I've seen how the process works. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing in this state right now to go down to Sacramento and try to affect change. Good luck. It's not going to happen. So I strongly support Plumas County signing on as the 11th state to go forward.
Amen.
Thank you.
Joyce, Wainscott.
Hi.
Indian Valley.
I'm from Indian Valley, Joyce Wainscott. My family's been there. This is the 5th generation. And everybody has said everything that I kept thinking what I was going to say. Everybody here knows how I stand because I'm pretty opinionated. I do think it's our only chance to survive in Northern California is to get representation by signing on to this declaration. So I beg and plead with you to do that today, because I want my grandchildren to live on the same ranch that I was raised in, that my uncle was born in, that my grandparents came all the way from Switzerland to be in. So I beg you to do that today.
Okay, I'm down to my last card. Is there any other cards out there that folks would like to? No? Okay, Stephanie Leaf.
Well, what I was going to say kept changing as I listened to the different speakers. And it's no secret what side of the issue I'm on. I'm kind of wearing my heart on my sleeve. And a lot of the things I was going to say have been said much more eloquently by some of the other speakers. And I guess the main thing I want to say is that it seems like there are a lot of areas of commonality that those of us who want to keep it California share with those of you who support the state of Jefferson. And it just breaks my heart that we cannot work together and find ways to improve our county and our area and our state, rather than spending our time and our energy and our money in this divisive, destructive battle. One of the gentlemen who spoke earlier said something to the effect of, oh, well, this will obviously end up in court. Well, there is no more destructive and time-consuming and money-wasting kind of activity that I can think of than having something like this spend time sapping our resources, our financial resources and our emotional resources in a long, drawn-out court battle. We need to get on with the business of administering our county, of making our communities a better place to live, and of working together and reaching across to one another so that we can accomplish these goals. Oh, and yes, I'm a Plumas County resident.
Double check real quick, just make sure there's no more public comment. There's Mari out there in the hall.
No cards in the basket?
Mari's not out there, okay. Anybody else want to fill out a card? No?
Yeah, I'd like to fill out one.
Okay.
Do I have to fill out one?
No.
My name is Mark from Indian Valley, Plumas County. And I was born and raised in California, down the Bay Area. And the last time I was down to my hometown, I couldn't even find my way around the town that I hitchhiked in, walked in. I couldn't even speak the language down there, because the language down there is different from the language up here. I don't understand Spanish. And I'm not, that's not a racial thing. I don't want anybody to misinterpret that. I'm a Bohemian by nationality, and if there's anybody wants to be discriminated against, they took our country away, or my ancestors' country away. But anyway, I just don't see why some of you folks that are keeping it California, which the latest term that I've seen is not California, it's Taxifornia, want to continue with the way we've been going for all these years, and eventually, every day, it gets worse and worse and worse. We're taxed and taxed and taxed. As far as other states goes, my wife and I went across the country last year. I wore my State of Jefferson shirt as often as I could. And I had more comments on, what's that, what's the state of Jefferson? And I explained to them what we want to do. Boy, I tell you, I wish we could do that in Montana. Eastern Montana wants to separate from Western Montana. Northern Nevada wants to separate from Southern Nevada. How many states are looking at California to do the very same thing because of lack of representation? That we're all governed, us ruralites are governed by the corrupt politicians in the big cities. And I say that with facts. They are corrupt. I don't care what side of the fence you're on, whether you're Democrat, whether you're Republican, whether you're Libertarian. It all gets down to what's in it for me, not what's in it for my constituents. And you supervisors are all paid by us. You are our employees. So, Kevin, I'm talking directly to you because you are my supervisor. I want representation from you. And a lot of my neighbors are here. They want representation from you. Get off the fence, Kevin, please. Go one way or the other. Let us know where you're at. You've told me you were for the state of Jefferson, and you've told somebody that is against it that you were not for the state. I've heard this over and over from people in your district. Get off the fence, Kevin. I like you, Kevin, but get off the fence. This isn't a personal attack on you. This is a personal attack on supervisor.
I understand it. Okay, thank you. All right. Now it's going to close our public comment period. We're going to bring it back to the board for discussion. I've been sitting here for a little while. I need to take a 2-minute break, restroom break, and then we'll pick this up. Okay?